The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The sky stretched like a dark ocean above, filled with stars that shimmered faintly, as if afraid to shine too bright. Frieren, the elf mage, walked slowly across the empty fields. Her long silver hair glowed faintly under the moonlight. Something in the air felt strange, like a whisper crawling along the wind. She stopped, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. A faint sound brushed her ears. It was not the cry of an animal, not the rustle of the trees. It was a voice. Obey. The order. Her hand tightened around her staff. She looked behind her, but no one was there. For a moment she wondered if it was only in her head. But Frieren had lived for centuries, and she knew when magic touched the air. This was not imagination. It was a call far away, in another part of the land. Rimuru Tempest sat in his human form, reading through papers brought by his followers. He looked calm, his bright blue eyes focused, but inside his chest there was unease. On his desk lay a letter sealed with a symbol he had never seen before, a circle of bones wrapped around a black flame. He broke the seal and read, "The order of the dead has been given. Come at once." That was all. No sender, no name. Just those cold words. Rimuru leaned back in his chair. The order of the dead. What does that even mean? He muttered. He could feel a heavy pressure from the paper itself, as if death clung to it. A knock came at the door. Shun entered, holding her sword. "Rimuru-sama, are you all right? Your face looks pale." Rimuru smiled lightly, hiding his unease. "It's nothing, just strange news. I'll take care of it myself." He folded the letter, slipped it into his pocket, and stood up. Something told him this was not a problem to share with others. It felt personal. It felt dangerous. At the same time, Frieren walked into a quiet village. The people were asleep. But she felt that whisper again, louder this time. "Obey." The order. She stopped near a well, her staff glowing faintly with light. A chill spread across the ground. The water in the well rippled, though there was no wind. Her heart sank. This was a summons, a command from something she could not yet see. She whispered to herself, "If this is what I think it is, then the world is in danger." As dawn came, fate pushed the two together. Frieren and Rimuru met at the border of a ruined forest, both sensing the same strange call. The trees were blackened, as if burned long ago, yet no smell of ash remained. The ground felt empty, like it no longer belonged to the living world. Frieren narrowed her eyes. "You feel it too?" Rimuru nodded, his hand in his pocket. "Yeah, the air here, it's heavy. And this." He pulled out the letter and showed her. She read it quickly. Her expression didn't change, but her grip on her staff grew tight. "Orders of the dead. I've heard whispers in the old records. They are commands carried by spirits, forcing both the living and the dead to obey. But I never thought I would see it myself." "Who would send something like this?" Rimuru asked. "That is the question," Frieren replied quietly. "But whoever it is, they want us here." They moved deeper into the forest. The silence pressed against their ears. No birds sang, no insects moved. Only the sound of their steps echoed. After some time, they found a clearing where broken statues lay scattered. The stone faces were twisted in pain, as if frozen in their last scream. Rimuru bent down, touching one of the statues. The surface was cold, colder than ice. "This wasn't just stone," he said softly. "This was a person." Frieren nodded. "Turned to stone by old magic, very old." Suddenly, the whisper returned, but louder now. "Obey." The order, "Obey." The voices came from every direction, echoing in their minds. Rimuru summoned a blade of energy in his hand. Frieren raised her staff. Then from the shadows of the trees, ghostly figures began to appear. Men and women in armor, their bodies transparent. Like mist, they walked without sound, their eyes empty. Rimuru frowned. "Are they Alive? No, Frieren whispered. They are echoes, remnants of soldiers who once fought here. One of the ghostly figures stopped and turned its head toward them. Its mouth opened, and though no breath came, the words were clear. Obey the order, or join the dead. The other ghosts turned as well, their empty eyes fixed on Frieren and Rimuru. Rimuru stepped forward, trying to sound calm. We're not here to follow orders. We just want to know who gave them. But the ghost only repeated, obey. Or join. The air grew colder. The ground shook. From beneath the soil came the sound of cracking bones. Frieren's eyes widened as skeletal hands pushed out of the earth. One by one, armored skeletons climbed out, their swords rusted but their eyes burning with blue fire. Rimuru sighed. I was hoping for answers, not a fight. Then fight, Frieren said, her voice steady. She raised her staff, magic gathering like sparks around her. Because this is only the beginning. The skeletons rushed forward, weapons raised. Rimuru's blade cut through the first wave, but more kept coming. Frieren unleashed a storm of fire, burning the ground, yet the undead did not stop. Through the chaos, Rimuru felt the weight of the letter in his pocket. The words echoed in his mind. The order of the dead has been given. Somewhere beyond this battlefield, something was controlling it all. And whatever it was, it wanted them to obey. But Rimuru clenched his fist and shouted into the darkness, We will never obey. The forest answered with silence. Then, far away, a deeper voice rose, cold and hollow. Then you will face the unknown. The ground split open, swallowing the skeletons, the ghosts, and even the firelight itself. Frieren and Rimuru stood at the edge, staring into the black abyss below. The voice whispered one last time, The order has only just begun. The black abyss below them pulsed like a living wound. Frieren and Rimuru stood frozen, watching as the last of the skeletons disappeared into the darkness. The whisper of the dead had stopped, but the silence that followed felt even heavier. Rimuru's sword flickered with fading light. He glanced at Frieren. This isn't just a battle zone. It feels alive, like the land itself once is gone. Frieren kept her staff ready, her eyes scanning the shadows. Not alive, she said softly. Cursed. This place was sealed for a reason, and now someone has broken that seal. A cold wind rushed through the ruined forest, carrying with it faint voices. They weren't clear words this time, only broken cries, as if thousands of people were begging all at once. Rimuru's chest tightened. It felt like he was standing in the middle of a graveyard where the dead never rested. He tried to make light of it. Well, this is officially worse than paperwork. At least paperwork doesn't scream. Frieren gave him a small, almost invisible smile, but her eyes stayed sharp. Focus, something is guiding us deeper. We can't leave until we know who. They moved forward, stepping past the cracked statues and into the forest again. The trees grew denser, their black trunks rising like burned pillars. The air grew colder the further they went, until even Rimuru could see his breath fogging. After a while, they reached a broken stone arch. Strange runes glowed faintly along its surface, shifting like they were alive. Frieren stopped, brushing her fingers over the markings. This script is older than kingdoms, she murmured. It speaks of trials. Only those who endure may reach the source. Rimuru frowned. Trials? I'm not really in the mood for puzzles. But before Frieren could answer, the ground beneath the arch trembled. A deep rumble shook the trees. Then, from the shadows, 3 figures stepped forward. They wore old armor, dented and scarred, their faces hidden under helmets. Unlike the ghosts earlier, these bodies were solid. Real. One raised his rusted sword and pointed it at Rimuru and Frieren. His voice was hollow but strong. Turn back. The path is not for the living. Rimuru tightened his grip on his blade. And if we don't turn back? Then, the armored figure said, "You will walk it as the dead." Without warning, the three charged. Frieren's staff flared with light, sending a blast of fire across the ground. One of the knights shielded himself and pushed through. Rimuru blocked another's strike, sparks flying as steel clashed against his energy blade. The battle was fierce but strange. Each time a knight was struck down, their body dissolved into ash, only to reform again, whole and unbroken. "They can't be killed," Rimuru growled, blocking another heavy swing. Frieren narrowed her eyes. "Then they're not meant to be killed. They're testing us." She shifted her magic, no longer aiming to destroy but to bind. Chains of glowing light wrapped around one knight, forcing him to his knees. Rimuru followed her lead, pushing his opponent back until the knight dropped his sword. The last knight stopped attacking. His helmet tilted slightly, as if acknowledging their strength. Then all three faded into mist, vanishing completely. The stone arch glowed brighter. The runes shifted into a new line of text. Frieren read aloud. "Those who endure may pass." Rimuru let out a breath. "So this whole forest is some kind of trial ground. But why us? Why now?" Frieren shook her head. "That is what we must find out." They stepped through the arch. Beyond it lay ruins unlike anything they had seen. Broken towers leaned against the horizon, their tips touching the clouds. Cracked walls lined with faded carvings showed battles between men and shadows. The air was thick with energy, pressing on their skin as they walked deeper. Rimuru noticed something strange. The carvings on the walls moved. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but no, the figures were shifting, replaying battles from long ago. Soldiers fought monsters made of mist. Kings gave orders. And in every carving, one symbol appeared again and again, the circle of bones around the black flame, the same mark from the letter. Frieren's voice was quiet. "The Order of the Dead is older than either of us. It was not made by one person. It was made by a civilization." Rimuru frowned. "Then where are they now?" The answer came before she could speak. A soft laugh echoed across the ruins. It was low, broken, almost human. They both turned sharply. At the far end of the street stood a figure cloaked in black. His face was hidden, but his presence was crushing. The runes on the walls dimmed, as if afraid of him. "You walk the path," the figure said, his voice echoing like it came from a tomb. "You endure. That is good, but you are late. The order has already been given." Rimuru stepped forward. "Who are you?" "What order?" The figure tilted his head. "I am no one. I am everyone. I am what remains when the living forget. The dead remember, and now the dead will rule." Frieren's staff glowed, ready for battle. "We won't let that happen." The figure lifted one pale hand. The ground beneath their feet cracked. From every direction, more armored soldiers rose, not ghosts, not illusions, but solid warriors of the dead, hundreds of them. Their eyes burned with cold blue light. Rimuru clenched his jaw. Of course, it was too easy until now. The figure's voice deepened. "This is only the first wave. If you survive, you may ask your questions. If you fail, you will join the order." The soldiers raised their weapons, the sound of steel filling the air. Rimuru glanced at Frieren, a small smile on his lips. "Guess it's time to show them what we're really made of." Frieren's eyes flashed with fire. "Yes, let's make them remember the living." The army charged. The ruins shook as battle erupted once more. Above them, the black sky swirled like a storm, as if watching and waiting for the outcome. Somewhere in the darkness, the cloaked figure whispered a final line, unheard by them both. "One of them already carries death inside." The army of the dead stormed forward, their weapons clashing against the stone ground. Frieren raised her staff high, light bursting from its tip like a star. Rimuru transformed, his body shifting into a glowing form of energy, his aura pulsing. With power, the first wave of soldiers charged. Frieren's magic cut through them like fire through paper. But for every one destroyed, another two rose from the cracks in the earth. Rimuru sliced through a group, his blade moving faster than the eye could follow, yet even he felt the weight of endless enemies pressing down on him. They won't stop. Rimuru shouted, knocking 3 soldiers away with a blast of energy. They're not meant to stop, Frieren replied, her voice calm even as her magic flared. This is not a real battle, it's a message. Someone is trying to break us down before we reach the truth. Rimuru clenched his jaw. Well, then they'll have to try harder. With a roar, he unleashed a wave of magic that shook the ruins. The blast ripped through the undead, scattering bones and armor across the ground. Frieren followed, weaving a spell that sealed the cracks in the earth where the soldiers kept rising. For a moment, the battlefield grew quiet. The cloaked figure in the distance did not move. He simply watched, his hidden eyes fixed on them. Then, slowly, he lifted his hand again. The ruins shook from the shadows. Larger forms began to emerge. These were not ordinary soldiers. Their armor was black, their blades glowing faintly with red runes. Their movements were faster, sharper, filled with deadly intent. Rimuru cursed under his breath. Stronger ones, huh? He's really testing us. One of the dark knights lunged at Frieren. She blocked with a shield of light, but the knight's strike cracked it instantly. She leaped back, firing a bolt of lightning that shattered his chest plate, but the knight kept moving as if nothing happened. Rimuru rushed in, slamming his blade into the knight's side. The runes on the armor flared, absorbing the hit. The knight shoved him back with terrifying strength. They're feeding on the energy here, Frieren said quickly. We can't beat them by force. Then what do you suggest? Rimuru demanded, dodging another strike. Frieren's eyes narrowed as she studied the runes. Break the connection. The energy flows from the ruins. If we destroy the source, the army will fall, Rimuru nodded. Then point me to the source. Her staff glowed as she traced the runes in the air. Finally, she pointed toward the largest tower at the center of the ruins. Its broken top leaned sideways, but faint black light seeped from within. There, she said. That's where it begins, Rimuru grinned. Then let's cut off their supply. They fought their way through the army, cutting down night after night, though each strike felt heavier than the last. Frieren blasted open a path with fire, and Rimuru shielded her from the enemy's blades. Step by step, they pushed toward the tower, but just as they reached its entrance, the cloaked figure appeared before them. He moved without sound, like a shadow sliding through the air. You seek the source, the figure said, his voice echoing like 1,000 whispers. But the source is not here. The source is inside you. Frieren froze. Inside us? The figure tilted his head. One of you carries death. One of you already belongs to the Order. Rimuru's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Stop with the riddles. The figure lifted his hand, and the letter Rimuru had carried burned through his pocket. He yanked it out, watching as the paper dissolved into black smoke. The smoke curled into the air, twisting into strange symbols before vanishing. The letter was not an invitation, the figure said. It was a mark, a binding. The one who received it is already part of us. Frieren turned her sharp eyes. To Rimuru, the letter was sent to you. Rimuru shook his head fiercely. No, that doesn't mean anything. I'm not bound to anything. I can feel it. I'm still me. But as he spoke, his chest burned. He looked down and saw faint lines of black light crawling across his skin, like cracks spreading through glass. Frieren raised her staff, panic flashing across her calm face. Rimuru, the cloaked figure's voice deepened. You cannot fight the Order. It is already within him. Rimuru staggered back, gripping his chest. I can fight this. I won't let it control me. His aura flared, fighting against the black cracks. Energy blasted out from him, shaking the ground. The cloaked figure simply watched, silent, as if curious. Frieren stepped closer, her voice firm. "Listen to me. You are Rimuru Tempest. You are not their puppet. You've broken curses before, and you'll break this one too." Her words cut through the haze in his mind. Rimuru gritted his teeth and forced his power outward, burning away at the black light. The cracks hissed and shrank, though they did not vanish completely. The cloaked figure tilted his head again. "Interesting. Most would already be mine. You resist. That makes you dangerous." Frieren raised her staff, ready to strike. "Then you should be afraid." The figure did not answer. Instead, he faded into the shadows, his voice echoing in the ruins. "The order will spread. The next trial will not be so kind." The air grew still. The soldiers of the dead froze. Where they stood, then crumbled into dust. The ruins were silent once more. Rimuru fell to one knee, breathing heavily. Frieren hurried to his side, her hand resting on his shoulder. "Are you all right?" she asked. He nodded weakly. "Yeah, but I can still feel it inside me. Like a chain I can't see." Frieren's eyes narrowed. "Then we must move quickly. The longer we wait, the stronger it will grow." Rimuru forced a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Well, at least it keeps things exciting. No boring days, right?" Frieren shook her head but allowed herself a small smile. Still, her heart was heavy. She could feel the truth in the cloaked figure's words. The order had already begun, and Rimuru was at the center of a dot above them. Thunder rumbled, though no storm was in the sky. The ruins trembled once more, as if the land itself was warning them. The unknown was waiting, and it was only getting closer. The ruins were silent again, but the silence felt wrong. Frieren stood beside Rimuru, her staff glowing faintly, as if the land itself was resisting her light. Rimuru's chest still ached with the faint black cracks that had burned into him. Earlier, he pressed a hand against it, trying to keep his voice steady. "I can still feel it," he admitted. "It's quiet now, but it hasn't gone away. It's waiting." Frieren's eyes narrowed. "Curses like this don't fade. They grow. Whoever that cloaked figure was, he wants you tied to the order. If we don't act fast, he'll have control." Rimuru forced a small laugh. "Well, if he thinks he can control me, he's in for a surprise." But inside, he wasn't as confident as he sounded. The cracks under his skin pulsed faintly, like something alive was crawling inside him. The two walked deeper into the ruins. The ground sloped downward, leading them into what seemed like a buried hall. Broken pillars leaned against the walls, and shattered statues lined the path. The air smelled of dust and iron, thick and heavy dot as they moved. Faint sounds began to echo like whispers, but sharper this time. Not just words, but names. Rimuru froze when he heard his own name among them. "Rimuru, obey." His grip tightened on his sword. "Great, now they're calling me personally." Frieren raised her staff higher, the light pushing against the darkness. "Do not answer. Spirits use names to bind souls. Ignore them." They pressed forward until they reached a massive stone door carved with countless runes. In the center of the door, the same black flame symbol glowed faintly. "This is it," Frieren whispered. "The core of the ruins." Before Rimuru could reply, the runes shifted. The door opened slowly, stone grinding against stone. Cold air poured out, carrying with it the stench of decay. Inside was a vast chamber lit by torches of blue fire. At its center stood a throne made of bones, and upon it sat a figure draped in dark armor, his face hidden behind a skeletal mask. Unlike the shadow from before, this one was solid, real, and heavy with power. The figure rose from the throne, his voice like steel dragged across stone. "At last, the chosen ones arrive. You have walked through the trials, resisted the echoes. and survive the first command. Few have come this far. Rimuru stepped forward, blade in hand. Who are you? What do you want with us? The armored figure raised one hand. The torches flickered. I am the commander of the order. I serve the will of the forgotten dead. We were warriors once, sacrificed and erased by the living world. Now through the order, we rise again. You, Rimuru Tempest, have already been marked. Soon you will lead us. Rimuru's eyes widened. Lead you? No way. I'm not joining some army of corpses. The commander's voice deepened. You have no choice. The order does not ask. It binds, and with you at its head, the world of the living will fall. Frieren stepped in front of Rimuru, her magic sparking dangerously. He belongs to no one, not you, not your order. The commander tilted his head, studying her. Elf mage, your soul carries long years. You have seen empires rise and fall. Do you not tire of endless life? Join us, and you too can rest in eternal order. Her voice was sharp. Rest is meaningless if it is built on chains. The chamber shook. The commander spread his arms, and the walls split open. From the cracks, rows of warriors marched out, armored soldiers with eyes of blue fire, stronger and larger than before. Their weapons dripped with black flame. Rimuru gritted his teeth. Here we go again. But this time, as he readied himself, his body trembled. The cracks across his chest glowed brighter, reacting to the commander's presence. He felt the pull, like invisible strings tugging at him. Obey. The soldiers chanted in unison, obey the order. Rimuru staggered, dropping to one knee. His sword clattered against the ground. Rimuru! Frieren shouted, rushing to his side. She grabbed his arm, pouring light into him, trying to hold. Back the curse. The commander laughed, a deep sound that echoed through the chamber. He is mine already. You cannot fight destiny. Rimuru clenched his fists, his voice strained. I make my own destiny. He forced his aura outward, a massive shockwave cracking the floor. For a moment, the pull weakened. The soldiers staggered back. Frieren used the chance. With a swift spell, she unleashed a storm of golden chains, binding the first wave of enemies. The chamber filled with flashes of light as magic and steel collided, but the commander did not move. He simply watched, his eyes glowing behind the mask. Finally he raised his hand, and the soldiers stopped. The chamber fell silent once again. You are strong, the commander said slowly. Stronger than most I have faced. That is why the order chose you. His gaze fell on Rimuru. But strength is not enough. Every hero falls. Every leader breaks. When the cracks inside you spread, you will come to me. And when you do, the living world will kneel. Before either of them could respond, the commander struck the ground with his blade. A surge of black fire burst outward, filling the chamber. Frieren shielded them with a barrier, but when the light cleared, the throne was empty. The commander was gone. Only silence remained. Rimuru dropped to the ground, breathing heavily. He was right. The cracks, they're spreading. Frieren knelt beside him, her face grim. Then we don't have much time. If we wait, you'll lose yourself. We must find the heart of the order and destroy it. Rimuru gave a weak grin. Destroy the heart of death itself? Easy, just another day. But his hand trembled as he picked up his blade. Deep down, he wondered if he could win this fight, or if the commander's words were already true. The chamber torches flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. In those shadows, faint whispers echoed once more. The next trial awaits. The chamber was empty now, but the weight of the commander's presence still lingered in the air. The whispers had faded, yet the silence felt dangerous, as though the walls themselves were listening. Rimuru leaned against the cracked floor, catching his breath. His chest still burned, the dark lines glowing faintly beneath his skin. Frieren stayed beside him, her staff resting lightly in her hand. Her eyes were sharp, watching him closely. "You're holding on," she said quietly. "But not for long. Every battle strengthens the curse." Rimuru gave a strained laugh. "Thanks for the pep talk, really motivating." Her expression softened only slightly. "I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm reminding you of the truth. If we don't find the heart of the order soon, you'll—" She didn't finish the sentence. He pushed himself up, forcing a smile even though sweat slid down his face. "Then we'll find it. I've got no intention of joining that creepy skeleton club." The two moved carefully out of the throne chamber, passing through narrow stone corridors. Strange symbols flickered faintly on the walls, glowing and fading, as if alive. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became. It felt like walking into water, every step slower, every breath harder. As they descended, Frieren placed her hand on the wall. "This magic, it's not only old, it's endless. Like a well that never runs dry. Someone is feeding it constantly." Rimuru frowned, but from where? The commander didn't look like someone bound to a single place. She shook her head. "No, which means there's more than one source. What we're facing may only be part of the order." The idea settled heavily between them. If one commander could summon an endless army, what would happen if there were more? At last, they reached a wide hall. The ceiling was lost in shadow, and tall black pillars lined the sides. At the center of the hall was an altar, cracked but still glowing with the same black flame they had seen before. The flame didn't flicker like normal fire. It pulsed as though it had a heartbeat. Rimuru's steps slowed. "That feels wrong. More wrong than anything we've seen so far." Frieren raised her staff, her face tense. "That is a fragment of the heart. Not the full source, but part of it. If we destroy it, the order will weaken. Then let's smash it and go home." He stepped toward the altar, but the moment he crossed the center of the hall, the flame flared. Shadows spilled across the floor, twisting upward into forms. They shaped themselves into people, men, women, even children. Their faces were pale, their eyes empty. Frieren's breath caught. These are memories. People who died to feed the order." The shadowy figures began to speak, their voices layered and broken. "Help us, stay with us. Do not leave." "US again," Rimuru gritted his teeth. "Don't listen, Frieren." "It's a trap." One of the shadows, a young boy, stepped forward. His face looked almost alive, his voice trembling. "Why did you abandon us?" he whispered. "We fought for you, we died for you, and you forgot." Frieren froze. For a moment, her staff lowered. The boy's eyes were wide, filled with pain. "You promised, but you never came back." Her hands trembled. She whispered, That face." Rimuru moved quickly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's not real. Don't let it get inside your head." The boy's shadow smiled faintly. "If it is not real, then why does she remember?" Frieren's heart raced. Centuries of battles, of comrades lost, of promises broken, she had carried them all. Now the order was twisting them against her. The shadows swarmed closer. Rimuru swung his blade, but they passed through it like mist. They weren't physical enemies. They were meant to break the mind, not the body. The voices rose together. "Obey the order, obey." Rimuru staggered, gripping his chest as the cracks flared again. The flame on the altar pulsed brighter, feeding on their fear. Frieren shut her eyes, forcing her voice to steady. "They are not real. They are not the people we lost. They are weapons, nothing more." She raised her staff high, pouring golden light into the chamber. The shadows screamed, shrinking back, their faces twisting into shapes no longer human. One by one, they dissolved into smoke. The flame roared, as if angered, and the altar cracked further. Rimuru, still fighting the curse inside him, gathered his strength. "Let's end this. Together." They unleashed their magic, Rimuru's energy blade striking down while Frieren's light engulfed the altar. The black flame shrieked like a living creature before shattering into sparks. The hall fell silent. The air grew lighter, and the pressure faded. Rimuru dropped to one knee again, his chest heaving. The cracks under his skin dimmed slightly. He managed a weak smile. "Looks like we actually did it." Frieren lowered her staff, her expression unreadable. "We weakened it. But that was only a fragment. The heart is still out there." Before Rimuru could reply, the ground beneath the altar split open. A black crystal rose slowly from the depths, glowing faintly. Inside it, a faint figure could be seen, another cloaked warrior, his body curled as if asleep. Frieren's eyes widened. Another commander. The crystal pulsed once, sending a shockwave through the ruins. Far above them, they heard the sound of walls cracking and towers collapsing. The ruins themselves were waking up. Rimuru pushed himself to his feet, gripping his sword tightly. "Guess round two's coming sooner than we thought." The crystal's glow spread across the chamber, and the sleeping figure inside began to stir. His hand twitched. His head lifted slightly. Frieren whispered, her voice tense. "We have to stop him before he wakes." But the cracks in Rimuru's chest flared brighter than ever, chains of black energy crawling up his arm. He gasped, fighting for control, as the crystal's glow reached him. The sleeping commander's eyes opened, burning with cold blue fire. The crystal pulsed like a beating heart, filling the chamber with blue light. The sleeping figure inside slowly raised his head. His eyes burned with cold fire, and the cracks across the crystal spread like spiderwebs. Rimuru staggered back, clutching his chest as the curse inside him flared in answer. Dark energy crawled up his arm, wrapping around his shoulder like living chains. He gritted his teeth. "It's reacting to me." Frieren's eyes narrowed. Her staff glowed faintly, but her voice was sharp with urgency. "Don't let it. Take control. If it connects with you, we'll lose both the battle and you." The crystal shattered with a deafening crack. Shards of black stone scattered across the floor, melting into smoke. The warrior within stepped forward, tall and armored in broken plates, a cloak of shadows clinging to him like mist. His face was hidden, but his voice cut like a blade. "You destroyed the fragment. Foolish. The order does not weaken, it adapts. You cannot stop what is already eternal." The ground trembled beneath his steps. Each movement carried the weight of centuries. Rimuru lifted his sword, forcing a grin despite the chains crawling over his skin. Big words for someone who was just napping in a rock. The warrior tilted his head, studying him. "You carry the mark. You are already part of us. Why fight? Surrender, and the pain ends." Rimuru spat on the ground. "Not my style." The warrior raised his hand. Black energy rippled outward, shaping into a circle of blades made of shadow. They hovered in the air, sharp and silent. With a flick of his fingers, they shot forward. Frieren stepped in front, her staff blazing. Golden light burst from her, forming a shield. The shadow blades struck, shattering into sparks that hissed against the floor. She held steady, but the strain showed in her clenched jaw. "Rimuru!" she shouted. If his strength comes from the crystal, then breaking it wasn't enough. "We have to strike his core directly." "Easy for you to say," Rimuru muttered, raising his blade again. His body shook as the curse fought against him. "But fine, let's aim for the heart." The warrior moved with terrifying speed, his shadow cloak spreading like wings. One moment he stood still, the next he was in front of Rimuru, sword crashing down. Rimuru blocked just in time, the impact sending shockwaves through the hall. The chains around Rimuru's arm pulsed, trying to bind his sword, but he pushed through with a shout. Sparks flew as steel and shadow clashed. Frieren circled wide, chanting. Softly, lines of light spread across the floor beneath her feet, forming a magic circle. Her voice rose, calm but firm. Bind the shadows, hold the night, bring dawn to the cursed. Golden threads shot upward, wrapping around the warriors. Arms and legs. For a moment, he slowed. Rimuru seized the chance. He slashed forward, his blade glowing faintly with his will. The strike cut across the warrior's chest, leaving a line of light in the shadow armor. The warrior staggered, but instead of falling, he laughed a deep, hollow sound. Good, very good. The mark chooses well. But the more you resist, the code, faster it spreads. Rimuru gasped as the cracks across his chest flared again, searing pain ripping through him. He dropped to one knee, his blade slipping. Frieren shouted, "Stand, Rimuru! Don't let him feed on you!" But the warrior extended his hand, and dark energy flowed from Rimuru's body straight into his palm. The chains tightened, pulling. Rimuru closer. The warrior's voice dropped to a whisper. "Join me. With your strength and mine, the order will rise above gods and demons alike." Rimuru's vision blurred. The chains squeezed, crushing his breath. For a moment, his will faltered. The darkness whispered promises, an end to pain, an end to fear, a place among the eternal dot. Then he heard Frieren's voice, clear and sharp, cutting through the fog. "You're stronger than this. You've fought for life, for freedom, for people who believe in you. Do not trade that for chains." Rimuru's fingers twitched on his blade. He forced a weak smile. "Sorry, but I don't do eternal slavery." With a roar, he drove his sword into the chains binding his arm. Light burst from the blade, shattering them one by one. The warrior's eyes flared in anger as the flow of power broke. Frieren's spell circle blazed brighter. She thrust her staff forward, and spears of golden light shot into the warrior's chest. He staggered, cracks spreading across his shadow armor. Rimuru pushed himself up, his sword glowing brighter than before. This ends now. He charged, every step fueled by stubborn will. With Frieren's magic holding the warrior still, Rimuru leapt and drove his blade straight through the enemy's chest. The warrior froze. His burning eyes dimmed, his body shaking as cracks of light spread across him. He looked down at the blade, in silence, then lifted his gaze to Rimuru. "You think this ends me?" His voice was softer now, almost calm. "No, you've only opened the door wider. The order will come. And you are already theirs." His body shattered into shards of shadow, scattering into the air like dust. The hall fell silent again. Rimuru collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. The cracks on his chest dimmed, but they didn't vanish. He lay still, staring up at the broken ceiling. "Tell me, we won, right?" Frieren stood over him, her staff glowing faintly as she checked the air. "We won this fight, but he was right. The door is open wider now. Something much larger is waiting." Rimuru gave a dry laugh, wincing at the pain. "Of course, when is it ever easy?" Frieren looked down at him, her expression unreadable. "Rest while you can. The order is not finished, and neither are we." High above them, in the ruined ceiling, a faint blue light flickered like an eye watching from the darkness. The ruins lay in silence. Dust hung in the air, glowing faintly in the light of the cracked crystal shards. Rimuru sat against the broken wall, breathing hard. His blade rested across his knees, its edge still humming faintly. Frieren stood nearby, staff in hand, her gaze fixed on the ceiling where the faint blue light had flickered before. Her voice was calm, but it carried weight. "We shouldn't stay here. The enemy wasn't lying. Something bigger is already awake." Rimuru gave a weak grin. "Bigger? That was supposed to be the warm-up?" He tried to laugh but ended up coughing, clutching his chest as the cursed cracks glowed faintly. "Figures." Frieren knelt beside him. Her hand hovered over his wounds, magic light gathering at her fingertips. "You can't keep fighting like this. The curse is spreading faster every time you resist." If you don't rest, you'll break before the real battle begins. Rimuru smirked, though his eyes betrayed his worry. Rest later. If the order is already moving, then we don't have time. A sound echoed through the ruins, soft at first, like distant footsteps. Then more joined, spreading in rhythm, surrounding them. Rimuru tensed, hand gripping his sword. Friends of our late shadow guy? Shapes emerged from the dark corners of the hall. Hooded figures in tattered robes, faces hidden, symbols glowing faintly on their foreheads. Their voices spoke as one, a whisper that slithered across the walls. The door opens wider. The chosen one bleeds. The circle is nearly complete. Rimuru forced himself to stand, swaying but keeping his blade ready. Yeah, spooky chorus, you want me? Come and get me. The figures didn't move closer. Instead, they raised their arms. Shadows gathered at their feet, crawling upward like living smoke. Frieren's staff glowed in response. She whispered, "These aren't normal cultists. They're vessels." Vessels? Rimuru asked, eyes narrowing. They gave up their bodies to carry fragments of the order. Destroying them may not be enough. They'll return as long as the circle remains unbroken. Rimuru sighed. Great. Unkillable fanatics. Just what I needed. The robed figures chanted louder, their voices overlapping into a haunting hum. The air grew heavy, and the blue light above flared brighter, like an eye forcing itself open. Cracks spread across the ceiling. Frieren's eyes widened. They're not here to fight. They're here to finish the summoning. The ground split, glowing symbols appearing in a circle around the ruins. Energy pulsed like a heartbeat, stronger with each chant. Rimuru gritted his teeth. So we stop the song, right? That's our move? Yes, Frieren said firmly, but not by cutting them down. Break the circle itself. If the lines connect fully, the gateway will open. Without waiting, Rimuru lunged toward the glowing marks. His sword struck the ground, shattering one of the symbols. The chant faltered, the blue light flickering. But as quickly as it broke, the cultists raised their arms again, and the mark reformed. Frieren's voice was sharp. They're repairing it, faster than you can break it. Rimuru's frustration boiled over. Then what's the plan? Because if that gateway opens, I'm pretty sure we're both dead. Frieren raised her staff high, eyes closing as she whispered a spell in a language older than stone. The air shimmered, her magic circle glowing like a sun beneath her feet. Rimuru shouted over the chanting, "Don't tell me you're about to burn yourself out." She didn't answer. Instead, her voice carried over the cultists. Light that binds all beginnings, sever what was never meant to be born. Shine where the void dares to open. Golden pillars erupted from the ground, piercing through the glowing symbols. The cultists screamed, their bodies writhing as the light struck them. Some crumbled to ash, others dissolved into smoke. The circle cracked, lines breaking apart. The blue eye above faltered, but then, in the center of the ruins, the ground tore open. A massive hand of shadow burst through, clawing at the floor. The cultists who remained threw themselves into the rift, their bodies merging with the growing form. Rim, you staggered back. That's not a door. That's a monster. The shadow shape rose higher, taking form towering, faceless, its body made of writhing figures fused together. Countless voices cried from within it, chanting, screaming, whispering. Frieren's magic flickered, her strength draining. I can't seal it completely. It's too far along. Rimuru clenched his blade, his whole body trembling. The cracks on his chest pulsed violently, as if reacting to the creature. He muttered under his breath, "Then I'll cut it down before it finishes crawling through." He leapt forward, striking the shadow mass. His blade cut deep, and light split the form in half. For a moment, it seemed to falter. But the shadows closed again, sealing the wound. The voices inside laughed. "Chosen one, you cannot destroy what you are becoming." Pain exploded in Rimuru's chest. He dropped to his knees, screaming. The cracks spread across his body like fire. Frieren rushed to him, her hand on his shoulder. "Fight it! Don't let them in!" Rimuru's eyes burned with the same blue fire he had seen in the warrior before. His hand shook as he lifted his sword, his voice hoarse. "I'm not yours." He stabbed the blade into the ground, forcing his will through it. Light exploded outward, cutting across the summoning circle. The shadows recoiled, the massive hand screeching as cracks of light spread across it. The cultists wailed, their voices breaking into silence as the gateway collapsed. The shadow hand shattered, dissolving into black smoke that vanished into the sky. Silence returned. The ruins trembled, then still Rimuru fell forward, his body limp. The glow in his chest dimmed, though faint cracks remained. Frieren caught him before he hit the ground, holding him close. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. "You won, for now." Rimuru groaned weakly, forcing a tired grin. "Yeah? Then why does it feel like I lost?" She looked up at the broken ceiling, her eyes narrowing at the faint trace of blue still lingering in the air. "Because this was only the beginning. The Order knows you now. They will not stop." Rimuru closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling him. "Down. Let them come," he whispered. "I'll cut them down. One by one." Frieren held him as the night wind swept through the ruins. But even in the silence, she knew the truth. Something had already marked him, and the real battle had yet to begin.